All right. So, hello everyone. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Dojo stack to show you how it all fits together. Dojo is a open source framework and tool chain for building provable games on StarkNet with Cairo. So, I'll give you a quick overview of Dojo as a technology platform. We'll do a little demo of how it works in practice, and then that'll basically be that. So, Dojo is a framework for creating provable games and applications on StarkNet using the Cairo programming language. It is a combination of a software framework, Dojo, and an entire tool chain of different components that are used to create and deploy games. So I'll give you a quick overview of how that all fits together, take you through a demo game, and that'll be the workshop. So Dojo, I'll give you a quick overview. The way that a Dojo game works is we have the actual world, which is your game world, where all of your storage and logic lives. We see that we have the world contract. We have the systems like moving and fighting and whatever your game has. Components, which is all of the states and the data that your systems manipulate. And then over here, we have the actual infrastructure for playing the game, where you have your game client. It could be a browser client, it could be a Unity or a mobile client that communicates with the StarkNet blockchain using an SDK. And the Tori indexer, which is a tool that takes blockchain data, which is generally harder to access and makes it easier to query for your client. And so it basically allows for an entire pipeline where you have player actions then are written to the blockchain and then are indexed by Tori and then sent back to your client, creating a very tight game loop. So that's how Dojo works. We're going to do a quick overview of a sample game, which is this Dojo intro repo. You can download it yourself to follow along. And the way that it works is we have the Dojo intro repo here. Let's open it up in Cursor, which is our code editor. We have we see that there's two parts. There's a client, which is the front end that users use to interact, and there are the contracts, which is the back end with all the blockchain logic. And the way that the contracts work is there's some source code, which is Cairo code. We have our models. We have our systems, which is the different actions you can take. We have the kind of basic configuration of how your Dojo works. You see that we're entering into Dojo 1.7. We're finishing up our alpha version now, which is very exciting. So Dojo 1.7 is a big step forward for the Dojo ecosystem. That's going to be done very soon. And that's that. And then we have our configuration for our development environment, our Katana environment, which is our sequencer, and our Tori environment, which is our indexer. So that's the backend. And let's actually show you how to deploy the backend now. So here we are, and we're going to cd into the contracts directory. And to get a Dojo game running is really 3 or 4 steps. And if you want to follow along, you can follow along right here under the your first Dojo app tutorial. So if you go to book.dojoengine.org, under getting started, your first Dojo app, all of the instructions that I'm giving, you can see yourself. So yeah, so basically the first step is we enter in and we're going to use Sozo, which is our command line build tool. Sozo build to build our contracts, to compile our contracts. And under the hood, Sozo uses Scarb, which is the StarkNet build tool. We see that we compiled successfully. Beautiful. Now we're going to, let's do a Sozo inspect to see how our world looks. Sozo inspect. Beautiful. So we have our world. It was created, it hasn't been deployed yet, but it was created. We see that all of our Dojo concepts of namespaces, actions, and models have been correctly compiled. If you want to know more about those concepts, you should look at the Dojo book, which has all of these things described in much more detail. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start up our sequencer, our Katana sequencer. So we'll do Katana config Katana. And now we have Katana running. So we have our blockchain running locally. And now what we can do is we can deploy the world to our blockchain. So we'll do sozo migrate. Let's just see what that looks like. Just takes a second. I think that the way that the team has added the emoji sequence to animate the deployment is a really nice touch. Amazing. So the migration is successful. If we go over here to the Katana output, we can see all the deployment transactions right here. So now we have our world deployed to Katana, our sequence through our local blockchain. The next thing we do is we'll set up Tori, our indexer, to help store blockchain state and make it accessible to the front end to show to the users. So we'll do Tori, config Tori. And now we have Tori running as well. So we have Tori running, we have Katana running, and we have our world deployed. So now our entire backend is absolutely ready to go. Next, what we'll do is we'll launch our front-end client. So let's do cd client. And our client, if we look over here, is just a standard, JavaScript front end. We have, index.html right here. Not even any React, just a script, some JavaScript files, kind of defining how the game works. We're integrating the controller, which is Cartridge's blockchain wallet that's designed for gaming. It includes a passkey sign-in, which makes it very easy to onboard users. It includes support for what we call sessions, which means you don't have to be signing transactions whenever you're taking game action. So these things make it really compelling and easy to use for games in particular, the controller. And that's basically the client. You'll see it's quite simple. We'll do pnpm run dev. Now the client is running, and we can go over here to localhost and see what it looks like. And so this is it. We'll open the developer console so that you can all kind of see it, and we'll basically connect. The controller pops up. We see this is something that if you use the controller, you get automatically. This is part of the controller interface. I'll type in my username, Chronosapiens, log in. And now I'm approving the session functions that are defined in the code so that when I'm playing the game, I don't have to be approving transactions over and over. And what you'll see is that once I create the session, I won't have to sign any transactions for the rest of the gameplay. I'll spawn my character, and then I'll basically just move my character around. Let's move to the right. Let's move down. Let's move down. Let's move down. Up, left, right. So every one of these actions is an entire game action, right? So in this case, I'm just moving my character, but you can imagine I could be casting a spell, or fighting, or crafting, or really taking any number of actions that would make sense given my or your game world. And I think the point that I want to make, and this is really the point I want to drive home, is every time I'm clicking one of these buttons, it's actually executing an entire game loop where, when I click a button, a transaction is sent from the client, from the front end, from my browser to Katana, which is running locally on my computer. Katana is then mining a block to update the game state. It's then emitting an event, which is picked up by Tori, the indexer. And then Tori, the indexer, is taking that event and updating its own internal database of the game state, which is then sending an update to the client to then update the UI, which in this case is just some text with the latest blockchain state, right? So when I hit right, it doesn't just update moves remaining or position locally. It actually does an entire round trip where the data is sent to the blockchain, updated. Tori then indexes it and then sends the update to the client, which then updates the position moves remaining. And so we have an entire user flow happening with all these pieces that were just put together. You can see if we look here, we see all the transactions hitting Katana. We have all the events hitting Tori, which is updating its internal record. If you want to see what the subscription looks like, we can go to the client, and we see right here in index, we see the way that Tori is subscribing. So the front end is saying, hey, Tori, let me subscribe to any time there's an update to the position or the moves data, and then send me a callback, which I'll use to update the UI. And so we have this entire end-to-end game loop working right now. And so you can imagine that you could take this and just expand it with better graphics, with different gameplay, whatever you wanted to create a much richer experience that was really yours. So that's really an overview of the kind of basic Dojo stack. If you want any more information, you can just go here to our book, which is our documentation with a lot more information for you. If you want to look at the code of the intro that I just showed you, you can go right here. It's github.com, Dojo Engine, Dojo Intro. We also have an arcade where you can play live games built with Dojo, play.cartridge.gg. So if you want to see what mature blockchain games look like that are built with Dojo on StarkNet, you can go right here to see and play some of the best games that we have. And that's really it. I think that you should take a look at some of these tools, play around with them, play around with the intro, really get a sense for what's available to you. And and that's it. I think that we believe that the Web3 gaming frontier is at StarkNet, and that we have the most advanced games ecosystem out there. And so by coming in to build games with Dojo, you're really being part of a very cutting edge movement of creative technologists. And so, we're very excited to be here. We would love for you to join us. So please play around. If we have a Discord, the Dojo Discord, if anyone wants to join, I'll post a link in the video and you can join the Discord. It's a very warm and welcome place. And yeah, I think that's it. Best of luck. And if you have any questions, I'm Chrono Sapiens on Telegram, on Twitter X. Just find me and I'll do everything I can to help you. All right, take care.